I need to tell you something I've never said out loud. Not to David, not to my therapist, not to anyone. The night I found out my sister was on my table, I stood in the scrub room for 30 seconds and thought about walking out, not because I couldn't do the surgery, because I was tired. 5 years of tired, the kind that doesn't go away with sleep, the kind that lives somewhere behind your sternum and just sits there, waiting. I turned on the faucet, let the cold water run over my hands, looked at myself in the stainless steel above the sink, and I thought, she took 5 years from you, and now she needs the next 40 minutes. I dried my hands, pulled on fresh gloves, and walked in. This is that story, and I'm still figuring out how I feel about it. My name is Dr. Maya Chen, 34 years old, trauma surgeon at Riverside Medical Center in Portland, Oregon. I drive a 2018 Subaru with a cracked side mirror I've been meaning to fix since February. I have a husband named David who makes terrible coffee, and somehow I still let him make it every morning. And I have a sister named Lily, who I didn't speak to for 5 years. I want to be careful how I tell this story, because Lily isn't a villain, not exactly. She's just someone who made a choice that cost me everything, and spent 5 years pretending she hadn't. I want to be really honest with you about something before I tell you this story. I was not a sympathetic child. I was not warm. I was not easy. I was the kid who corrected her teacher in front of the class and genuinely could not understand why that was a problem. My mom used to say, "Maya, you're going to be very impressive someday, but right now you're just difficult." She wasn't wrong. The difficult part never fully went away, but the impressive part, that one took work. I grew up in Sacramento. Dad managed a hardware store on Riverside Boulevard for 26 years. Mom was a bookkeeper at the same elementary school I attended. I remember being embarrassed by that once. She found out. She never said anything. I think about that a lot now. Lily is 4 years older. She was the easy one. Not mean, not competitive, just easy. She knew how to be exactly what our parents needed her to be at exactly the right moment. I was the other kind. Quiet, focused, always slightly outside the frame of whatever was happening. 8th grade science fair, 2nd place. Dad glanced at the ribbon. "That's great, Maya." Then he went back to the baseball game. I stood there for probably 10 seconds holding that ribbon. Then I put it in my backpack. And I decided something. I was going to become someone they couldn't glance at. I don't know if that was healthy, probably not, but it got me into the Oregon Health Sciences medical program at 26. And for about 3 weeks, I was the center of every conversation my parents had. Mom called her sister. She called 2 neighbors. She called our old pediatrician for some reason. "Maya got into medical school. Can you believe it?" I could hear the pride from 2 rooms away. It was the first time in my life I had heard that specific pitch in her voice, directed at me. I was stupid enough to think it would last. Lily started calling more after the acceptance, 2-3 times a week. "How's Portland? Who are your classmates? What's your schedule like?" I thought, finally she sees me. I told her everything. Every professor's name, every worry, every small vulnerability I had been carrying since I got there. I handed it all over like I'd been waiting my whole life for someone to want it. I was 26 years old and still desperate for my sister to love me. I'm not embarrassed by that anymore. I understand it now. 3rd year. My best friend was a woman named Jamie Reyes. She grew up in the foster system in Fresno. No family to speak of. She was the first person who ever looked at me like I was exactly enough, exactly as I was. Jamie was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in the fall of our 3rd year. No family, no one, just me. I went to the dean's office the next morning. official leave of absence, 1 semester, caregiver documentation, signed and stamped, everything by the book. I moved into Jamie's apartment in Southeast Portland, drove her to chemo at Providence on Glisson Street, held her hand in the oncology ward at 2 a.m. when the pain got bad enough that she'd just grip my arm and breathe. She never cried. I cried enough for both of us in the hospital parking lot after every session. Then I'd come back up, and I'd be fine. I called Lily to tell her what was happening. Looking back, I don't know why. She said all the right things. "Oh, Maya, take all the time you need. I won't say a word to Mom and Dad. They'd only worry." 72 hours later, she called them. Before I keep going, I need to ask you something. When someone uses your vulnerability against you, not with anger, not with cruelty, just quietly, strategically, what do you do with that? Drop a 1 if you've been there. Someone you trusted turned your truth into a weapon. Drop a 2 if you've watched it happen to someone close. Because what Lily did next, I still don't have a clean word for it. The call came at 11:14 p.m. I know the time because I looked at my phone before I answered. Jamie had a bad reaction to her latest round. They'd admitted her overnight. I was sitting in a plastic chair in the hallway outside her room, eating a granola bar I'd found in my coat pocket. "Dad," I answered. "Your sister told us everything." His voice was flat, not angry, flat, which was worse. "Dad, that's not... I'm at the hospital right now. I'm taking care of Jamie. I filed a leave of absence. It's all documented." "She said you'd say that." I pressed my hand against the wall. "Dad, please, give me 5 minutes. I will explain everything." Mom got on the line. Her voice was shaking. "How could you lie to us, Maya, for a whole year?" "Mom, I filed a leave of absence. The dean's office approved it. I can give you his direct number." "Enough." Dad again. "Don't call until you're ready to tell the truth. You've embarrassed this family enough." The line went dead. I stood in that hallway, plastic chair behind me, granola bar wrapper in my hand, Jamie's IV beeping through the closed door. I looked at my phone. Call duration, 3 minutes, 47 seconds. That's how long it took my parents to decide I wasn't their daughter anymore. I tried. I need you to know that. I tried everything. 14 calls in 5 days. First 3 went to voicemail. By the 4th, Dad had blocked me. Mom blocked me 2 days later. I sent 2 emails. The longer one had my leave of absence documentation attached. The dean's number, Jamie's oncologist's name. Everything a reasonable person would need. Neither email got a response. I mailed a handwritten letter, priority from Portland. 5 days later, it came back. Returned to sender, unopened. I recognized Mom's handwriting on the envelope. I called Aunt Diane, Dad's younger sister, the only person in our family who ever treated me like I was worth the same amount of air as everyone else. Diane called Dad that evening. She called me back 40 minutes later. Voice heavy. "He told me to stay out of it, sweetheart." 5 days, 14 calls, 2 emails, 1 letter, 1 person who tried to help. All of it rejected, blocked, returned. On the 6th day, I stopped calling. Not because I gave up, because I finally understood. They had decided a long time ago. Lily just gave them permission to say it out loud. Jamie died on a Sunday. December. Pale winter light through the hospice window. I was the only one in the room. 6 people came to the funeral. I read her eulogy to empty rows. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken, because I had been crying for 3 months straight, and there was simply nothing left. That night I sat in our apartment, her coffee mug still on the counter, her jacket still by the door. I found a note tucked inside her copy of Grey's Anatomy. Her handwriting, shaky but deliberate. Finish what you started, Maya. You're going to be the best doctor I never got to see. Don't let anyone, not even your own blood, tell you who you are. She'd written it weeks before she died. She knew she wouldn't be there when I needed it. I opened the re-enrollment form, filled it out. 2 options, crumble or climb. I chose to climb. Not for revenge, not for my parents, for Jamie, and for the version of myself she believed in when I didn't. January. I walked back onto that campus alone. I had $47 in my checking account, a duffel bag, and Jamie's note folded in my coat pocket. That was it. That was everything. Medical school doesn't pause for grief. I found that out fast. The first week back, I failed a practical exam. First time in my life I had ever failed anything. I sat in my car in the parking structure for 20 minutes. Then I went home, made ramen, set my alarm for 5 a.m., and started over. Anatomy exams don't get shorter because your family disowned you. 12-hour rotations don't end early because you cried in the supply closet at 1 a.m. So I stopped crying and started working. I worked like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. I graduated on time. Nobody from Sacramento came. I matched into surgical residency at Riverside Medical Center in Portland. Level 1 Trauma Center, one of the busiest in the Pacific Northwest. That's where I met Dr. Sandra Okafor. She became the mentor I had been looking for and the person who showed me what it looked like to do this work without losing yourself. I met David 2 years later. Terrible coffee. The first person I told the full story to, who just listened, then said, "You deserved better." 4 words. We got married on a Saturday afternoon in Sandra's backyard. 30 guests. David's mom walked me down the aisle. I sent an invitation to Sacramento. It came back the same way my letter had. Unopened. 5 years passed. I became someone they wouldn't recognize. January. Present day. 3:09 a.m. My pager went off. Level 1 trauma, single female, blunt abdominal trauma, hemodynamically unstable. I was dressed in 4 minutes. I picked up the intake tablet in the trauma bay and opened the incoming chart. Patient, Lily Chen. Dobe, September 3rd, 1987. Emergency contact, Robert Chen. Father. I stopped walking. The hospital noise, the beeping, the intercom, pulled back like a tide. For 2 seconds, I wasn't a surgeon. I was 27 years old, sitting in a plastic chair in a hospital hallway in Portland. Granola bar wrapper in my hand, listening to a dial tone. Then Linda, my charge nurse, appeared at my shoulder. "You okay, Dr. Chen?" I set the tablet down. "Prep A2, page Dr. Wallace. I want him on standby." The ambulance siren was already in the distance, getting closer. And behind that ambulance, I knew before I could see them, were 2 people I hadn't faced in 5 years. The stretcher came fast. Lily, strapped down, unconscious, oxygen mask fogging with shallow breaths. Behind the stretcher, running, my parents. Mom in a bathrobe, slippers on the wrong feet. Dad in a flannel shirt thrown on in a panic, his face the color of old paper. "That's my daughter!" He was shouting past the triage nurse. "I need the doctor in charge. Get me whoever is in charge." Carla, my charge nurse, a woman I've worked with for 4 years, put both hands up. "Sir, family needs to wait in the surgical waiting area. The chief is already handling this personally." "Get me the chief, right now." Carla glanced through the glass partition, looked at me. Gowned, gloved, my badge visible at chest level. She read it again. Her eyes went wide for exactly 1 second. I gave a small shake of my head. Not now. My parents were led down the hall. Mom was praying, hands clasped, knuckles white. Dad kept turning back at every window. "She's all we have," he said. To no one. "Please, she's all we have." I heard it through the partition glass. Every word. She's all we have. As if I had never existed. I stepped into the scrub room. 30 seconds, that's all I allowed myself. Cold water, my hands, the steel mirror above the sink. I had rehearsed what I would feel in this moment 1,000 times. Anger, satisfaction, grief, relief. What I actually felt was tired. Just tired. And clear. There was a woman on that table who was going to die in the next 35 minutes if the best surgeon in this building didn't operate. I was the best surgeon in this building. I paged Wallace. "Conflict of interest. Patient is immediate family. Disclosing now. Documenting in the chart. You have override authority if I call for it." "Understood, Chief." I pulled on fresh gloves, pushed through the OR doors, looked down at the table. My sister's face. For 3 seconds, she wasn't the person who had taken 5 years from me. She was a body on my table. And that was exactly how I needed her to be. Let's go. Scalpel. 3 hours and 22 minutes. Ruptured spleen. Removed. Grade 2 liver laceration. Repaired. 2 bleeding vessels. Clamped and cauterized. At 6:51 a.m., I placed the final suture. Lily's vitals were stable. She was alive. Wallace pulled his mask down. "That was clean work, Maya." I peeled off my gloves, dropped them in the bin, washed my hands. Automatic, methodical. Same as I've done 10,000 times before. I've got the family. The hallway to the waiting room had never felt so long. My parents were in the center row, rigid, sleepless, terrified. I pushed through the doors, surgical scrubs, mask down, my badge at chest level. Dr. Maya Chen, MD, FACS, Chief of Trauma Surgery. Dad stood first. "Doctor, how is she? Is Lily?" He stopped. Eyes dropped to my badge, rose to my face, dropped to the badge again. I watched it happen. The recognition, moving through him like something physical. A tremor that started in his hands and climbed to his jaw. Mom looked up half a second later. Her lips parted. No sound. Her hand shot to Dad's arm and clamped down. 5 seconds of silence. 5 seconds that held 5 years. I spoke first. Same voice I use for every family in this room. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I'm Dr. Chen, Chief of Trauma Surgery. Your daughter Lily sustained a ruptured spleen and a grade 2 liver laceration in the accident. Surgery was successful. She's stable and currently in the ICU. You'll be able to see her in approximately 1 hour. Mr. and Mrs. Chen. Not Mom and Dad. I watched that land. I watched it cut. Mom took a step toward me, arms lifting. Maya. Oh God. Maya. I stepped back. Half a step. Polite. Unmistakable. She froze. Her hands hung in the air between us. Then, slowly, dropped to her sides. Dad's voice came out rough. You're a doctor. I am. You're the chief. I am. But Lily said... What exactly did she say? He closed his mouth. I watched 5 years of certainty start to crack in real time. She told you I dropped out, that I was lying, that I had abandoned my education. None of it was true. Not one word. What you may not know is that in the 5 days after that phone call, I called 14 times. I sent 2 emails with my leave of absence paperwork attached. I mailed a handwritten letter priority from Portland. You sent it back unopened. I recognized your handwriting on the envelope, Mom. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Dad was staring at the floor. I asked Aunt Diane to speak to you. You told her to stay out of it. Not accusing, just stating. These were facts. Facts don't need volume. Dad tried. Old reflex. This isn't the time. I know. I just spent 3 hours and 22 minutes making sure your daughter survives to come home. So yes, Dad, I'm aware of what time it is. He had nothing. For the first time in my memory, my father had absolutely nothing. Mom's voice came out small and broken. Robert, what have we done? And I heard something I'd never heard before. My father not answering. Because there was nothing honest left to say. I have to stop here. Because I've told this story in my head 1,000 different ways. And every time I get to this part, I don't know what I actually felt walking away from that waiting room. Not triumph. Not relief. Something quieter. Something I still don't have a word for. What would you have felt? Drop a 1 if you think you would have felt satisfied. Drop a 2 if you think, like me, you would have just felt tired and sad. Because both of those can be true at the same time. That's the part nobody tells you. 4 hours later, I went back to the ICU. End of my shift. My parents were still there. Of course they were. Mom stood the second I walked in. Face swollen, eyes nearly shut. Maya, baby, I'm so sorry. I held at my hand, gently. I hear you, and I believe you mean that. But sorry is where we start, not where we finish. What I need from you right now is time and honesty. Real honesty. Not the version where you explain why you made the choices you made. Just the acknowledgement that you made them. Dad turned from the window. He looked like he'd aged a decade since the waiting room. We want to make this right. Then here's what making it right looks like. Family counseling. Both of you. Not for me. For yourselves. So you understand why you believe the lie about your daughter for 5 years, without once picking up the phone to ask her directly. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom put her hand on his arm. He looked at her. Something behind his eyes shifted. Fine. I looked at Lily on the bed. Her eyes were open now, watching me. The calculation I had seen in her eyes my whole life was gone. What replaced it was something I had never seen there before. Fear. The real kind. "When you're recovered," I said, "you and I are going to talk. A real conversation. But not today. Today, you're my patient." I left, spine straight, steps even. I didn't look back. 3 weeks later, a coffee shop in the Pearl District, Portland, Tuesday afternoon. Lily walked in looking like someone who'd been emptied out. She sat across from me, wrapped her hands around a cup she didn't drink from, stared at the table. "I'm not going to yell at you," I said. "I'm not going to list everything. You know what you did. What I want to know is why." Long silence. Long enough that the espresso machine hissed twice. Then, "Because you were going to become everything I was afraid I could never be. And I couldn't handle watching that happen from the outside." I looked at her, my sister, 4 years older, sitting across from me looking exactly like what she was, a person who had made a terrible choice and spent 5 years building a life on top of it. "That's honest," I said. "First honest thing you've said to me in a long time." "I'm sorry, Maya." "I know, but sorry doesn't give me back the years. Sorry doesn't put Dad at my wedding. Sorry doesn't unreturn that letter. So here's what this looks like going forward. You tell the truth to every person in our family you lied to. Every aunt, every cousin, every person who spent 5 years thinking I had fallen apart. You correct every story, in writing, an email, everyone on the list. Aunt Diane confirms everyone receives it." She nodded, small, defeated, not performing. That was new. "And Lily," she looked up, "I'm not cutting you out of my life. But I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. Neither are you. If we're going to build something, it starts from what's actually true, not from what's comfortable." She held my gaze. For the first time in my life, my older sister looked at me like I was someone she genuinely respected. It was 5 years too late, and it was a start. Here is what I want to tell you. Not the version that sounds wise, the version that's true. I did not walk out of that operating room feeling vindicated. I walked out feeling human. The same human I had been at 26, sitting in a plastic chair at 11 p.m., eating a granola bar I found in my coat pocket, wondering if my parents would ever choose me. The surgery didn't change that. The badge didn't change that. What changed it was every single morning I got up after Jamie died and went back to work anyway. Every loan payment, every overnight shift, every time I sat in the supply closet for 5 minutes and then went back out. That's what changed it. Not the moment in the waiting room, not the look on Dad's face when he read my badge. The years, the boring, unglamorous, nobody watching years. If you're somewhere right now being built by something that's breaking you, I need you to hear this. You are not waiting for anyone's permission to become who you are. You already are who you are. You just need to keep showing up long enough for it to become impossible to ignore. That's not strategy. That's just time and patience and the absolute refusal to let someone else's fear become the ceiling on your life. If this story sat with you today, you already know what to do. Next story is about a woman who found out at her mother's funeral that she had a brother she never knew existed. Her mother had kept him a secret for 40 years. What the brother didn't know was that the entire estate, every account, every property, every dollar had been placed in her name alone, years before the funeral, with a letter explaining exactly why. I'll see you there.